Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to make a homemade caramel sauce that is phenomenal. So if you've only ever had store-bought caramel sauce, you're about to take your taste buds to a new place. It's super easy to make, doesn't really require any culinary expertise. If you follow my tips and tricks along the way here, you will have a beautiful product. Now this caramel sauce, it does get a little stiffer when it's refrigerated, but it does not become rock solid as some do. It's wonderful to eat with apples, to drizzle over a dessert, to stir into coffee or tea, put on ice cream. I mean, there are so many uses for this caramel sauce. There's just endless uses. So I'm going to show you all the ingredients here. I'm going to have the ingredients listed and the amounts in the description of the video. The tips and tricks and how you put it all together, you need to watch the video for and pay attention for those. Lots of trial and error for me to have perfected this recipe, and so it will save you a lot of time. Now I'm going to be making a double batch. I'm going to tell you the ingredients for a single batch. A double batch works better for my family. That being said, you do not want to triple or quadruple this recipe. I have tried, it doesn't work as well, and I believe that's because of the evaporation and surface area as you're preparing it. So don't do more than a double batch. And when you're making this, you want a large pot. So this is a large saucepan. That's what you want. It is much larger than the amount of liquid and ingredients that we are going to put into it, and that is okay. That is perfect. And the reason for that is because there's going to be a lot of steaming and bubbling at certain points. You don't want to have to even worry about an overflow. So also in regards to your pan or your pot that you're using, a metal like this is fine. This is a very old pot that I just keep on using. It just keeps on keeping on. Or like a light enamel coated pot would be fine. What you do not want to use is a non-stick pot. And let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so this is a non-stick Sam's Club frying pan, one of their professional ones. You don't want to use this, anything with this coating, because that is going to make it difficult to tell the color of the syrup that you are making in order to turn it into the caramel sauce, and that is crucial. So do not use a nonstick like this. Okay, so now that we've got that very important tidbit out of the way, let's talk ingredients. Super simple. The only thing you may not have, that's not just a regular, typical, standard for most people. I mean, it is for me. I always keep heavy cream in my refrigerator, but it's heavy cream. So you're going to have sugar, heavy cream, a little bit of light corn syrup, regular old salt, vanilla, and butter, as well as water. Okay, so for the single batch, it's going to be 1 cup of sugar, 1 tablespoon of corn syrup, 1/4 cup of water, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of butter, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is super easy. In the very large pot, we're going to stir together the sugar, the water, and the corn syrup until the sugar is well moistened. So let's do that. Okay, so here you see the sugar, you see the little bit of corn syrup, and now here goes the water in. And we're just going to kind of mix this around a little bit, get it all saturated with water. And then we're going to set some other things up before we get our concoction here heating. We're going to get some other things set up and ready, because when the time comes, sometimes it takes a little while to get to the appropriate time, but once the time is there, you want to be ready to move. You don't want your syrup that you're working on to process any longer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out my heavy cream into this measuring cup that I just used the water for, and I'm going to heat it in the microwave until it's hot. Okay, so not boiling, but it's going to be hot. And this is going to help with kind of the turbulence when we pour this into our syrup. So I'm going to get that measured out and get that heated up. Okay, so you can see here I have my butter at room temperature, unwrapped and ready just on this plate here. I have my salt just waiting to go. I will pour my extract when I need it, but I have my measuring spoon there and ready. My cream is finishing up heating, and as soon as I have it hot, I'm gonna just place it right here. Okay, so there it is, and it's waiting for us. And now we're gonna start this cooking. We're going to put it over a medium heat. We are never going to turn it higher than medium. That's very important. Now we're gonna stir this until we have it boiling. So I'll bring you back once it's boiling. And while you're waiting for it to come to a boil, make sure you're kind of scraping down your sides, not leaving sugar just hanging there. Okay, you can see here we're starting to boil and it's starting to froth up. There is really only about a ½ inch of liquid here in my pot, and that's what you're going for. So we're just gonna leave this. Now that it's boiling, we stop touching it. We let it just do its thing. Now what we're gonna do is not leave this pot. Take my word for it. You may think you can leave the pot. Don't leave the pot, because this can turn very quickly. So we're going to leave it over the medium heat. We're not going to stir it. We're just going to watch. And you can kind of see the color right now. It's like a beigeish color. You can probably hear it boiling. What we're looking for is a light to medium amber color. When it gets to that color, we're going to remove it from the heat, okay? Now, it is better to have a lighter than what color you think it should be type of color, because it will continue to cook even once we remove it from the heat, so it will continue to darken. We don't want to burn it. We don't want it something that it's not supposed to be. So a medium amber color, and what I mean by medium amber is something similar to a honey, like a darker honey, but you will see here, and we'll just wait for it to happen. Now, while we're watching this change color, I thought I would just talk to you about some other really cool things about this caramel sauce. So I love to make this caramel sauce as a gift. And the reason for that is that it is good for 3 weeks refrigerated. So sometimes what I do is make a few batches of double batches, and then I put it in little jars with lids and refrigerate it and put a best by date on it, and then give it to people with some apples. People generally love it. It's also good at room temperature for 3 days. I always pop mine in the refrigerator and then just microwave it a few seconds, 45 seconds to a minute, and stir it until it's the consistency and the temperature I want. Oh, somebody. That's my dog. He was let in and everybody else is outside, so he's sad. Sammy. Come on, buddy. I can't leave this pot. See, you can't leave the pot. Don't leave the pot. So we'll have the dog come to us. The syrup burns very quickly. Okay, so we're just waiting for this. Waiting. Another great thing is because this is good for so long, so 3 weeks, you can make it a considerable amount of time before an event or a busy season where you may want this, a caramel dip or a caramel drizzle, and not have to worry about it. It's just as good day 1 as it is day 10. It's fantastic. So we're just waiting. And maybe I'll just stop the video here for just a little bit and bring you back in a couple minutes when there's a little bit of color change. Also worth mentioning, make sure you use a nice silicone spatula that can handle heat. And as I mentioned before, I was stirring down scraping down the sides of the pot. But now that I can't do that anymore because we're not stirring, we're just allowing it to kind of bubble here. You can see it's kind of crystallizing a little there. It's okay. It's no big deal at this point. And we're still bubbling. We've probably been boiling now about 5 to 6 minutes. I do see we're starting to get some color change. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna stop the film again and start it back up, so hopefully you'll be able to see it here in another minute or so. Okay, so it's starting to turn here a little. I had my pan a little off center, so you can see it was getting a little dark over there. So I've kind of shimmied it on the burner to kind of counteract, but we're getting, do you see this color here? That's the color we want. And it's getting there. It's very, very close. All right, and that is just about what we want. And so we're going to turn it off. And if you have a space to do it, slide it off of the heat too. Okay, so I'm just sliding it over here. And you can see it's still bubbling. It's still yellowing, and that's why I mentioned that we want to take it off before it's darker than we want. So now what we're going to do, it's going to get a little wild here. We're going to stir in this hot cream. It is going to bubble up. What you need to do is watch out for steam. You also need to watch out for bubbling over. You need to watch out for it sputtering at you. It's going to get real wild and really crazy. You can see my syrup has finally stopped bubbling. There you go, perfect color. I'm going to pour this in and I'm going to stir it. Look at that. And it's hot. Just keep on stirring. Just keep on stirring. Keep your hands back. Keep your face back. We're going to stir it until it's smooth. If you want to wear like a hot mitt on your hand at this point, not a bad idea. I never do, but be aware. There is hot steam coming up. Okay, so we're just going to keep stirring. Got maybe a couple more drips. And so the hotter that your cream is when you pour it in, the less intense that is. And that is why, remember we talked about the pan size? That's why, right there. Okay, so we can just keep stirring and slowly the bubbles are going down. We can go back to scraping the sides. Look at that. Okay, now once it's nice and smooth, we're going to stir in the butter and the salt. That looks nice and smooth to me. So there's our salt. There's the butter. The butter is room temperature. And we just stir it. It's going to appear a little streaky at first. You just keep stirring until it's all incorporated. You can see the streaks. That's from the butter melting. Okay, so the butter is all stirred in. It does appear a little streaky still, like I mentioned, but that will become more uniform as the caramel sauce cools. So now the final step is to stir in the extract, and we're going to wait a few minutes. Even though nothing's boiling right now, if we pour the extract in too quickly, it'll just kind of bubble up and dissipate a lot of what we're putting in. So I'm just going to let it sit 2-3 minutes, and then we'll stir the extract in. So as we're waiting for that caramel sauce to cool a little bit before we add the extract, these are the jars I like to use to give the caramel sauce as gifts. It's just a little 8-ounce jelly jar. And then I'm just going to pour it right in this quart jar. Makes it easy for heating and reheating and, you know, scooping some out and then I'll just put a lid on it, but you can store it however you would like. This is just an easy way, I think, for me to store it. Okay, so in goes my vanilla. Let me tell you, this already smells so good. And you can see it's really not that hard. It's more about process than it really is anything else. Right, and now it's ready. Just pour into my container. If you want to let it cool a little more before you do, you could do that. It is still hot. I am putting mine into the quart jar, so you know, hot liquids into that is not an issue. All right, so here you go. You can see how much I got out of a double batch, so about 2.5 cups. And you can see how much darker it is than it was when we stopped the syrup. So actually, I could have even stopped it a little sooner. And with this caramel sauce, there is a little variation between each batch and the color, because it all depends when you stop your caramelization on your syrup. But super delicious, super easy to make, and oh, is it so good. I just was licking the spatula, and the different layers of flavor, you know, like you have the carameliness and then you taste a little bit of the salt. It's just so much better than store-bought. I hope you try this. I hope you love it. I'm going to treat myself right now to an apple with some caramel sauce. So, and you know what the crazy thing about this is that I don't even like store-bought caramel. I don't even like a lot of things that have caramel. But when it comes to this caramel sauce, it changes it all. So I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. I hope you try it and find out just how easy this is. And I look forward to hearing from you. Tell me about your caramel escapades and what you think about caramel. I'll talk to you soon.